All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. It is, as always, the Metal Summit. It's Wednesday night. The first half of the week is dead. The rest of the week starts tonight. Happy Hump Day. It is all things metal, exactly where you want to be. Your island of misfit toys. Jason Perlsweiser, Angel Alamo. We've got Psycho Steve. We'll be joined by Bobby Dreyer, and I'm Jay. And kicking it off, as always, with our guest, we are super duper stoked. He is just stories galore. Back catalog. Enuff's Enough, Life, Sex, and Death, Shark Island, Anti-Product, and a whole lot more fun. We've got Mr. Alex Kane. How are you, brother?
One moment, please. With an intro like that, I have to take a bow.
Curtsy, sir. Curtsy.
Absolutely.
I'm doing very, very well, my friends, and thank you very much for having me as well. I think the gag is worn off. I can take these off now, though.
Absolutely. No worries, brother. Well, of course, we thank you so much for being with us and taking some time out of your evening to wrap with us for a little bit to talk about all things that's fun in Alex Kane's world. So let's just kind of jump right into that. We're coming off of the year where music was completely erased. We're now in the new year where things seem to be opening up, getting a little bit more normal. But talk a little bit about yourself, brother. What do you have going on right now?
Well, I mean, I respectfully kind of disagree with the music stopped. Live music stopped. But a lot of us were very fortunate in as much as we started hooking up with different friends and, communicating and everybody's got a studio at home now. So, I mean, I've been doing tons of sessions and, a lot of records and hey, play on my track and, do a solo and do this, that, and the other thing, write a song. And I've gotten to work with, and because we've not had that constant, there's gigs, I have to go, and we've actually we've been trapped inside, literally everyone has, right? So I've spent a lot of time recording and working with friends that I've always wanted to, that there was just never time because we were always on tour. And I made a record with a friend of mine, a great fucking record too, called Brandon Fields. It's called Minefield. You should definitely have him on. Great singer, great writer. He's got some incredible people on his record. I'm on there. Jeremy Ashbrook from Ace Frehley's band is on there. The Nashville Residency, I guess his band's called. The Talisman, thank you. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's another one. And that whole crew, all them dudes are badass. And Todd Kearns plays on it, and Matt Starr, and I'm on a couple of records with him. I did a space rock album, just finishing it now, actually, with Matt Starr, who's in Ace's band and Mr. Big. And, we've never recorded together before. And since the pandemic, we've been on 2 records together now. You know what I mean? But so me and Matt and Mike Watt from the Minutemen are making a space rock album as well. And and it's all 12-minute songs and literally. And so Michael sent me the Matt plays last. And I've always wanted to work with Matt because I really respect him as a person, where he comes from, his perspective on what we're doing. And he's a brilliant musician, great songwriter, great singer. He's just such a cool dude. But literally what I would get from Mike is I would get 11 minutes of sort of this minimalist kind of bass solo in a key and with a click, right? And then it's like, okay, do the guitars. And I'm like, because I'm like song guy, you know what I mean? Enough's Enough, Anti-Product, these song bands. So I would get, here's the dog. Hi, buddy. You want to be in the interview too? You're very cute.
Yeah, we're very pet friendly.
That's lucky. He's 12, and he's my best buddy for sure. But are you bored? You're leaving already? What, should I tell jokes? What is it? When your dog walks away from you. And so literally I just get a bag of weed the size of a box of cornflakes and just roll that up, the whole box and everything, and just smoke the shit out of it. I destroy my brain and my ego, and then I just feel it, and I don't question anything, which is totally different for me. Scary and exciting, and those are my two favorite things in the world. So I did that, and then I played on a record by, they were called Ghost to Sunset. I did some solos on there. That was a lot of fun. Did some punk rock records with my buddy Jiro. We did 2 records actually, and just, you know what I mean? It's been, I like the primal visceral release of the live thing, and I like, if I wasn't good at it, meaning like I'm not addressing my ego, I'm addressing, like, I've been on tour since I was 18, so if I don't know how to get people whooped up, it ain't going to happen. So, but I mean, that was one of the things, like chops didn't come naturally, but getting people whooped up did. I was able to do that. So, but that's just saying like I picked the right career, not saying like, so while I love that primal release and the expression of the physicality of it and putting so much into a performance that people my age will come up to me after the show and go, how the fuck do you do that? And it's just rock and roll is the answer. And if there's, you know, and it's supposed to be like a traditional thing that like once you reach a certain point in your life, well, you know, you're not valid anymore and whatever. And I'm kind of like, well, that's a bunch of fucking bullshit because I've got a lifetime of experience. And the other thing that you always got to do is you have to date age inappropriately. That's critical. Because then you take your age and her age, you add them together, and you divide by 2, and that then you're like immediately, in my case, like 10 years younger. Cutting edge. That part's obviously a joke, but so to be able to, instead of doing that, to be able to focus on recording and rather than the ephemeral art form, which is live, where it's like bulldozers with melodies, to create something that will be around ostensibly forever in the shape of music, to take a void. And I don't have kids, so I have rock and roll. So instead of having a bunch of more mouths to feed, I got songs that I want to see, you know, going into the universe. So that's really what I've been spending my time doing, and taking care of mom and the dog, obviously, you know, and occasionally, like, I've been doing some streaming stuff, you know, when it's like LA or whatever, but like there's enough streaming stuff. I've had to pass on all of those just because I, like, you know, we were talking before we came on here, for me to do one show, I got to like commit to like 3 or 4 days. And, you know, and then as a result, I'm also hiring somebody in to take care of mom. So financially it becomes a struggle, you know, and it's like, I mean, to cover what I have to pay in like mom care, I'd have to sell like 20 shirts a show, you know, and that's, you know, I mean, it would be nice, but, you know, I'm not in any bands where I can, you know, brag of that kind of a, you know, good fortune at a gig. So I've had to pass on the shorter runs, but anything that's a tour, you know, that I'm completely down with. And like I was saying before we went on the air, and I do have to say this, otherwise I'll forget it, and I don't want anybody to think I'm unappreciative. First of all, I'm really, really grateful to the guys, Tori and Chip and Dan and Beasley, our tour manager. They've been, oh, I love your pussy.
Don't they all?
I love your black pussy. And
So very sweet as the juice. Anyway.
Right. So it's I am very grateful that the guys in the band were understood what I need to do right now. You know, I'm not going to fucking bail on my 81-year-old mom. You know, that's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
And even more so, I'm grateful for the amount of support that I get from. Like Enuff is the most actively touring band that I'm in, so that the concern that the guys into the band show for me, and mom's well-being, and like I was saying, this pandemic it's really equalized a whole bunch of shit, you know what I mean, where even like Brian May isn't walking around outside without a mask because he's in the age group that's going to get it and die,
Right.
And so we go through the same thing when we're going to get shit from the grocery store or whatever, you know what I mean? So a lot of the pretense of being a musician, being like a punk rocker from Chicago, a lot of the pretense of the like, oh, and this is I'm so fabulous and whatever. I don't have fucking time for that. And never did. I just want to be thankful that I get to do the one. Here's the thing. One time with an ex, I took a vacation. Right? This was in 2016. We went down to Cancun, ironically, to a degree. We went down to Cancun for about 10 days or whatever it was. And it cost me $2,000 for a rock and roll guitar player. That's a shitload of money unless you're actually in Motley Crue. And I realized while I was down there, and it was fun, and we saw the pyramids and everything, and it was magical and stuff. But I also realized I'd spent $2,000 to not be able to do the one thing that truly makes me happy for 10 days. Right? Okay. So if I'm not playing, if I'm not filling the void with music that I can be proud of, that I can put my name to, that I can share with the audience and go, you know what? I don't know if I like this one as much as the last one, but I know he fucking put his heart and soul into that. You know what I mean? You don't hit a home run every time you go up to the plate, but you want to, right? And so that's kind of where I come from as far as making music. So then having the opportunity to play, I did a space rock album, I did a punk rock album, I did a couple of glam rock albums, you know what I mean? And so you pull from all these different influences that you've had. So while it's definitely been challenging, and while it's been, and anybody who's watching, you want to buy some merch.
Absolutely.
Right ahead. Right. But that's like a lot of us, that's literally all we're relying on right now. You know what I mean? That's literally our only source of income. I mean, I get my ASCAP checks and they're like, wow, 50 cents. You killed a tree for this? You know what I mean? Buy me some Bitcoin. Did I say? Oh, I thought I'd offended you with the whole.
No.
It's you being psycho. So it's the challenge in anything is the gift. Yeah. The gift of the challenge. So I didn't sign up to be a rock and roll guitar player because I wanted, like, none of this should say stability to anybody. This thing here, right? If that's what you see, fucking, you need to go see the doctor and get some, new eyeballs. Because it's always been the vibrancy of creating music. You know what I mean? That's always been the thing that I wanted. So the nonsense and the external things have never really been my fuel, but just being able to go up there and play and then write a song. And then you get these examples where, people come up to you and you go, hey, that one song that you did, and that really, I was going through a really bad time in my life. And I'm like, dude, that's why I wrote it. I was going through a really bad time. And immediately, again, fuck all politics. You got a human being in front of you, and it doesn't matter what construct of man he believes in, because then there's me. I wrote a song, the person standing across from me saying that he was grateful that I wrote that song. It was because we were both in the same place. And that's why I do it. I do it not only to let people know they're not alone, but I also do it to let me know I'm not alone. So when somebody comes up to me and gives me a comment, like when you said, like when you saw us play Anti-Product, which I still think is the best thing I've ever done, by the way, in every regard, live, complexity, shtick. I mean, we were so good that the shtick, like we actually put so much shtick in the stew. The Anti-Product was a UK-based band that I had from about 2000 till 2010, and we did a bunch of really cool shit. But anyway, so anyway, if anybody wants to go check that out, please do, because I think it's the best thing I ever did. But we had
we'll definitely get into Anti-Product for sure.
Okay, all right. Well, the point of even mentioning that was we were. I never told. They were all much younger than I was, and I never told anybody in that band what we were doing was absolutely impossible to pull off. Right. So we were able to do a heavy metal version of Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys with all of the harmonies, but the band thought that it was Judas Priest, right? So instead of the cello part, you move that onto the kick drum. And then you go play a festival somewhere in the UK, and you get 3 generations of rock and roll fan bouncing up and down to it. And I'm like, this is why I do this. You know what I mean? That sense of to bring people together rather than to destroy unity and embrace a deeper sense of tribalism. That doesn't interest me. I love punk rock. I love heavy metal. I love power pop. I love, whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? There's 2 kinds of music, good and bad. That's it.
Absolutely, man.
And it's not defined by genre. I mean, I guess I should be more like, hey, metal, but, I love metal, but it's what I first listened to, Stained Class was actually the first metal album I ever bought.
Nice. Right on. Absolutely.
Dude, Exciter, come the fuck on. To this day, man, that tune is in Wake the Dead, The Saints Are in Hell. Oh, man, I forgot what band it was. There was a thing in Chicago called Chicago Fest, and they were playing that over the PA pre-gig. This was probably like in the late 70s, I guess. I'm listening to it, and nobody knew who Priest was yet. You know what I mean? Nobody really, you had to be like it was your teenage rock and roll heart, which is my favorite thing. And I'd also like to say your teenage rock and roll heart is the thing you can never let die, because it never has to. Because we know for a fact Steven Tyler has a teenage rock and roll heart. We know Iggy Pop has a teenage rock and roll heart. We know anybody that's still incendiary, just never. Mick Jagger has a teenage rock and roll heart, man. Fucking sure. I saw the Stones do a 2-hour set, and that 76-year-old man who just come back from open heart surgery 2 months before did a 2-hour set, and he came on in 3rd gear, not 3rd gear for a senior citizen, 3rd gear for me at 25, right? And no joke, guys, during the course of the set, he ramped it up. So like an hour and 20 in, he shifted into 4th gear, and I'm like, you have got to motherfucking be kidding. I got a bunch of it on my phone, actually. And then the last 20 minutes during the encores, 76, 77, whatever the fuck old he was at the time, this motherfucker is doing wind sprints, and you guys can picture how big the Stone stage is, right? Right? Literally. And then, he did this little Jagger dance. Right? And then Jagger dance again. I'm winded just doing that now. And just an unbelievable, remarkable performance. He made everybody feel like he was talking to them. You know what I mean? I felt like, yeah, me and Mick, we hang. And which is the other thing that I also, and this goes back to the teenage rock and roll heart, I, as a 55-year-old man who's been on tour since he was 18, my first professional touring gig, and this will be, here's some metal cred, guys. It's okay. I may have tattoos on my face and funny hair, but here's some metal cred. The first touring gig I had was in Chicago in a band called Holland. And the guitar player I replaced, being Ramone's Cheap Trick guy,
was Michelangelo Badio.
That was my first gig.
No shit.
Yeah, I could. I mean, it was. Yeah, it was, and I was 18 years old. I was 18 years old. Everybody in the band was already in their 30s, right?
Yeah.
It was boot camp, man. And at the time, I hated them, and all I wanted to do was just, party and get laid. And because, I was like really shy and introverted as a kid, which I think a lot of people that are more extreme performers, I think, are actually kind of, oh God, like I don't think, like I'm sure that Iggy Pop wasn't the cool kid in school. I don't think that Prince was the cool kid in school. Psycho Steve is either absolutely insane or frozen now.
Yeah.
That just
Psycho, are you with us, buddy?
I think he's frozen, but that's like classic.
It's a classic picture.
Somebody take a screenshot, and we should get T-shirts made with that fucking face while he's not here.
Or send it to LA.
Jason, get it. There he is.
We're just shitting all over you right now.
Oh man,
no, it
you got to see it.
Man. But actually, on that note, let me kick it over to Psycho Steve on that, because I think that's fucking fantastic. And Psycho will tell you how much Michelangelo Badio means to me as well. But I think that's so badass that was your first like touring gig. Because
you guys, that isn't. I mean, in Chicago, everybody knows of like my generation, but that's not like that's surprising to you, and you guys are fans of his.
Yeah. I mean, we're all familiar. We're all familiar. I'm a huge Michelangelo fan personally. I've got one of his guitars right behind me. And because I was also a big Nitro guy.
Okay.
But yeah,
the drummer is still one of my best friends.
Who is?
Drummer KC. He was the drummer.
KC,
yeah. He's a Chicago guy. Mm-hmm. And we had a couple of bands together afterwards, like right when I came back from England. I don't know how I got that job. I have no fucking idea. If it was me, I wouldn't have hired me. But I was 18, but I think Tommy, who was the singer, and Tommy was so good. Tommy was, if you took Rod Stewart and Robin Zander and squished them together, that was Tommy Holland. Oh, killer singer. All the dudes wanted to like have a beer with him, and all the chicks wanted to bang him. He was like the fucking quintessential front man. Cool moves. He actually, his first gig was, he was 22, and I think that's why he kind of took me under his wing a little bit. He was 22, and he replaced John Kay in Steppenwolf.
Oh, nice.
And then he got a little bit of a reputation from that. And then the next gig that he did was he replaced Sammy Hagar in Rock Candy. That was Vince Neil's band.
No, that was Vince Neil's band. In Montrose?
No. The one before he in Montrose, and it might have been Rock Candy. I don't know. That just came out of my mouth. But so that was Tommy's thing. So he was really used to the dynamic of going on stage and having the audience go, boo. So when I went up there, and I'm like, I mean, I worked my dick off, and I got good with the Badio stuff to an extent, but I'll never fucking beat Badio. You know what I mean? It's not. Like, he'll never be me, but I'll never be him. And it used to be like we would do jams together in Hollywood at NAMM time, right? Mm-hmm. And so our buddy Harry, who's a mutual friend of ours, who was running clubs in LA, he would be like,
Harry.
That's exactly who it is. That's exactly who it is. Oh my God, I want to. You know what? I'm going to send him a text, and then maybe we can say his name again, just to kind of, because Harry needs a little bit of love, and he's a thoroughly decent guy and a great singer as well, I have to say. You heard him sing. Dude, that guy, he's got fucking killer pipes, man. Harry?
And a good beard.
And, well... I don't know if I'd go that far. I can't lie. I mean, he's my friend out of respect. But so I think Tommy kind of saw a little bit of something inside of, that, there was something there that he could work with or whatever. But I sat there and I worked and I worked and I worked and I worked. Anyway, so you fast forward into the future, from the year 2000 on. And so I'm coming back for NAMM shows. Harry puts the thing together. So me and Badio, and I forget who was playing drums, but it was somebody cool. And I always lived in this fucking dude's shadow. You know what I mean? And so when we would go one-on-one, I would be like, all right, I'm going to play the fastest, most complicated shit I can possibly ever do. And no matter what, he's going to crush you. He's Michelangelo. You're not going to out-shred Michelangelo, right? No matter what. It's not going to happen. And then I reached a certain level of maturity or self-confidence or whatever, and I said, and it was the second to last time we played together maybe, and when it was my turn to solo, I just played kind of weird, and I did whole notes, and like I don't play traditional guitar, so there's I just never wanted to do stuff that other people do. I wanted to do stuff that other people don't do, right? So I would just do my weird shit, and I'd start doing whole notes, and I'd do I'd stay on one position, just fret up a fifth and down, just crazy little tricks and shit that I've developed over the years. And I love Mike. You can ask him this when you talk to him. And for the first time ever out of any of the times I jammed with him, from trying to keep up with him in his domain, don't do it. It'll never work. But he was kind of looking at me like, I felt him looking at me like, I can't, if you're doing whole notes, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Absolutely, 100%. Well, Psycho, let's keep the beautiful beard of doom in play. So why don't you take over?
Right on.
I like your beard. I think you've got a nice beard. Harry has a shit beard.
Right on. Thank you. I've known Harry forever too, so it's cool.
But his beard sucks, right?
Okay, so he's not watching right now, so yeah. Okay.
I've known him since he was 14.
What?
In Chicago.
Really?
He's from Chicago. We grew up together. Hey, there's another one. Hi, Bobby.
Yay, Queen Bobby's here. Okay. All right, so my question is, growing up in Chicago, with all these bands and everything, how did you meet Chip?
Let me think. The series of events. Okay, I do remember. All right, so I had that band Life, Sex, and Death, right? Now, before that band was Life, Sex, and Death, we were a band called Bottoms Up, right? And Bottoms Up was, and it wasn't like Life, Sex, and Death, and none of the Bottoms Up tunes made it to Life, Sex, and Death. But it was definitely, everybody else was doing Maiden, and we're like, no. So we went off and did our own thing, our own sound, our own outlook, and it was kind of, Cheap Trick meets AC/DC, I guess, was kind of what it was. Cheap Trick being like a constant through line with pretty much everybody from Chicago. But so there was a local radio station called WVVX, and I don't know, so who here, so I'm assuming everybody plays to a certain degree, right?
Yeah. Not very well, but yeah.
Yeah.
Which never stopped me either, so. And so you hear, but you remember when we were little and we were first trying to, get our feet wet and figure out how this all works and whatever, then you'd hear about, there's this band from the South Side called whatever the fuck, right? And so we heard of this band from the South Side, which was, you might as well have said, Mars, because we weren't, one of us had a car and picked everybody else up. That's how young we were at the time. And so we heard of this band from the South Side called Enuff's Enuff. And they kind of got a Cheap Trick thing going, and we're like, what? And so we heard of their thing, and then there was some kind of, they heard of our thing, and it was like the first band I ever played out with, right? I think. No, I was one band before that I played out with. And this would have been like 86 maybe. And there was a local radio station called WVVX, and then they had Bottoms Up on the same night that they had Enuff's Enough, and that was the first time that I met Chip and Donnie, and that they met me, and they were aware of us, Bottoms Up, because we were sort of swimming in the same pool, and we were aware of them. So, you know, there was a little bit of that kind of jockeying for position. We're like, well, we have sex with girls too, or whatever nonsense we were coming up with. And I have smoked pot, which never would impress Chip, by the way, because I think he came out of the womb with a joint.
Chip created pot, man.
Yeah, he is the god of pot. Gene Simmons is the god of thunder. Chip is the god of pot. Yeah. So anyway, there was that, and then we kind of started, Bottoms Up started playing, and we were crazy. We dressed up like a wedding band, so we had tuxedos and bow ties, but still rocked it up, you know, with accessories. But we didn't want to look like Rat or Motley Crue, and we weren't gonna. Let's cut horizontal rips in our T-shirts that are just like Flashdance, because I'm like, everybody in Bottoms Up, and Chris, it was the same singer, Stanley. His name's Chris Stan, so he was the lead singer for Bottoms Up, and we didn't want to play in anybody else's reindeer games. We wanted to make our own fucking holiday, invite everybody to celebrate with us, right? So we started getting a little bit of a buzz around Chicago, and we started getting some headline gigs, and then we got all the way down to the South Side, and we played. Either Enuff was on the bill, or they came down to check us out, or whatever it was. And what we were fucking nuts, man. It literally, when we were done playing anywhere, like, we eventually did get banned from all the clubs, which is part of the reason that we changed the name and everything, because it literally looked like Berlin after World War II when we were done in a place. Literally, it was there'd be cake on the wall, wedding band, right? There'd be cake on the walls. All the mic cords and guitar cords were, you know, streamers, just tangled everything up. And it would be, remember when you guys used to get your cords tangled up together on stage?
Yeah.
So we were a 5-piece, and by the end of the set, we were all standing in a space about that far apart. You know?
It's like when your fucking Christmas lights are in the box and you have to bring them out the next year, and they're all fucked up.
And that's why you start January 1st before you needed December of the same year. Yeah, exactly that one. And then you're sitting there and you're getting the cake off the cords and the streamers. I mean, it was, you know, and we didn't realize that this would be preclusive to being invited back. But anyway, so we do the thing at Haymakers. And one thing that we would also do, Bottoms Up, before it morphed into Life, Sex, and Death, we didn't want monitors because it got in the way of the stage show. So wow. We literally, the first thing we would say when we got into a club was, take the monitors off stage, man. We need that room to rock. And it was funny, though, but I do think in the long term that benefited us, because you know what it's like when you're, like, not the headline band. Maybe you don't get the sound check. Maybe you're doing a festival or whatever. So by the time we became Life, Sex, and Death, and we were doing, like, you know, support slots and doing festival shows, we didn't give a shit about a sound check because we never used monitors anyway. We got used to hearing the room. Right. So anyway, getting back to what the point of the question was, which is a thing I'm really bad at. But anyway, so we played that, and then Chip and Donnie were there, and then Donnie and me kind of became buddies and whatever. I got the gig in Holland, and Holland was the biggest band in the Midwest by far. So we would Holland once. I mean, with Mikey Badio. They were selling everything out. 1,200 seaters they were selling out. And so I was used to playing in front of, 150 people with Bottoms Up. So now suddenly I'm in this band and there's a shitload of people there. And of course, I'm like, I've arrived. Not even realizing, no, you're in Chicago. You haven't left to arrive. But then that did sort of jumpstart me in the Midwest because we were a regionally touring band, and then I had a little bit of a name and a reputation. And it really is because of Badio that I bothered getting any chops, because I was never interested in being a flashy player. I wanted to be a unique player. So, Rick Nielsen and Adrian Belew, these were the guys that I was drawn to, where it wasn't like hard to do what they did, but it was like hard to figure out why anybody would want to play those notes. No, it was hard to figure out why, how it was actually done. It wouldn't be hard it wasn't like watching a guitar player do push-ups on stage, which isn't my jam. I'm just not into that. I want to see shit happen and blow up and laser beams, and I want the guy to be so good that I don't even notice he has a guitar on, So I was never really drawn to the more sort of egocentric kind of playing. But Mikey is the king of the shred. And so I sat there. We practiced 5 days a week for 5 hours, and then I sat around for 7 hours a day by myself working on Mikey's shit. And that gave me a fair amount of chops. And, at that point, people like Lynch were already big, and Eddie and, Randy and whatever. I think Randy was gone already, maybe. But, I kind of knew, like, all right, it's more than just playing Ramon songs if you want to keep your fucking, doing this for a while. Anyway, so I got the Holland gig, so then my profile went up, and Chip not being, Chip's a really, really shrewd motherfucker. Don't be fooled. He's a really intelligent person. And then once I became available from Holland, he just snapped me right up. And, I was already friends with them, and we now started doing shows with Enuff's Enuff and Bottoms Up. So it was a pretty natural progression. And that was the late 80s by the time I started playing with Enuff's Enuff. And the thing that I'm proud of, particularly about that legacy, is 2/3 of the set are pretty much still, and I mean, don't get me wrong, they're fucking brilliant writers. Absolutely. No question. Unbelievable. Donnie in particular, I mean, I'm like, for being as big a fuck up as that guy was, his genius just came too easy, where he never had to respect it. Same thing with Derek. Derek was such a natural player in a way that I'll never be, that he just never respected the talent. It was always right there. So as a result, there was too much downtime for him, where he didn't have to sit there and get his shit together, because it was always there for him. And I think sometimes the people that are too talented, they kind of peak too early, or they don't realize I got to nurture this and I got to work at it. And I can't just be fucking doing bass all day long. But anyway, so that's how I met Chip and got in Enuff's Enuff. And again, about 2/3 of the set is still from the stuff that I worked with the guys initially, in that time that I was in the band. So, which also led to like a funny thing. And Tori's literally my favorite guitar player, because to me, he's the perfect balance of shred to soul. You know what I mean? So he can shred with the best of them, but then he'll just do this beautiful sequence of notes where it's like, I love you so much. It's like listening to God Only Knows, except with sweeps. So we were, and everybody in the band is just a class act, and it's really nice to be back home, and I love the songs. I think very much like that way, and I have a hand in many of the songs that we do, as far as, the contribution of my initial parts which stayed as part of the song as it got recorded in different, versions of the band, which leads me to my point. There was the riff in Baby Loves You. Do you guys know that song?
Yeah.
Baby Loves You, okay. So it's not particularly metal. I have to keep reminding myself, hey, I got tattoos, guys, come on. But the riff and some of the structure and whatever, but the riff in particular was, that was like a me and Donnie thing. And Tori was, because I realize he's been in the gig for 12 years or whatever, so I'm not going to be like, hey, I want all this stuff, and this is, because that's not how you make a team, So, I'm like, dude, I'd like these amount of solos, because I am actually a lead guitar player, but I respect and love you, so, and I do. There's very few people that I love more than Tori. We room together. Like, when we're hanging on stage, it is like we're doing rock shit, but it's also like I miss my buddy.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because we room together and we just talk and we're friends and everything. So when we're on stage, it's just a continuation of that. So like, you know, I'm over here singing all of my shit, and I'm like, oh, I miss Tori. And I'm going, hey, buddy, how you know? But it did lead to the thing where we're doing, and some of the bits that are done right now are literally from my time in the band. Like the bit where Chip comes behind Tori and solos, right? That was me saying when I found out that Chip, on the original recording of In the Groove, right? Is that a sweep? On the, that's Tori check.
Yeah, now back to you.
No, that actually came from my end. My laptop finally queued on for after like all this time, because we've been using my phone, and I think my laptop's finally like, all right, I'm over. You're off. You know,
penance,
detention or some shit.
Either that or the name Tori is magic, but and so you know I you know that bit though I learned because Chip's involved in the story. Me and Chip, I was in Holland, right, replacing Mikey. Then Tommy got an offer from managers that had some money and stuff. And I was already buddies with Chip at that point. So when we were looking for a band, it kind of fell on me to find the guys. So Greg Potter is a guy who I got, a Chicago drummer. And he's... Say what? Somebody say something?
No.
No. It was
you.
That
means
you were
I'm hearing voices, guys.
That's okay.
Well, Greg Potter is like the Michelangelo of drums for Chicago. He's the guy that, like, all the drummers that came up after him, and I'm including Vic Fox, I'm including Brian Horak, you know, the guy from LSD, the guy from Enough's Enough. That Potter was like the man that he was the first guy to do the flat cymbals like Terry Bozzio, and he had these crazy rubber arms, and he had the whole show, and I just lost something. What was it? So anyway, so I got him, and then I got Chip, and then me and Chip were, you know, already hanging out and whatever, and then we were staying at these friends' house. And you should have Chip on because he can kind of fill in some of the details because it's probably not right for me to do. But anyway, so we're staying at this friend's house, and we had a lot of fun. But and I had a guitar there, and I see him playing guitar, and I'm like, "You play guitar? I didn't know you played guitar." And he plays guitar really, really well. So fast forward to then me after that being in Enough's Enough. And I'm like, dude, why don't you do a riff at the end of In the Groove? I think it's a good idea to let people know that you play bass, and then we can do it live, and it'll be a cool shtick. Hand to God, ask him. And so from that moment on, at the end of In the Groove, Chip would come up behind me and do the thing. So I cannot lie and say, like, when I'm sitting there and I'm watching him and Tori do it, I'm like, well, I'm flattered, but I'm over here just drinking water now, you know. But on the other hand, a bit that I came up with in 1987 has definitely stood the test of time. So along that thing, when Tori was playing "Baby Loves You," that little riff thing, and just to showcase what a douche I can be, and he is one of my very best friends. But anyway, I'm like, you know, and it was because I get to watch the solo every night. I'm like, and the other thing was, before I joined the band, they were called Enough, Zenuff, and I'm like, Chip, what are you doing? Enuff, Zenuff. And from that moment, and his response, tellingly enough, was, yeah, I've been thinking about doing that. Except right after I'd said that, that's when the name changed.
Oh, jeez. That's hilarious.
But here's my thing. Crunch all you want, we'll make more. And I made Life, Sex, and Death. And an idea is an idea. If it helps whatever I'm working on, it's my duty to kick in, right? But anyway, so we're about to do "Baby Loves You" at sound check, And, I kind of make my way over to Tori's side, and, I'm having a quiet moment with him. I'm like, hey, dude, I don't want to be the new guy coming in and being like, hey, can I? But, I wrote that riff, and do you mind if I play it? And he goes, yeah, you go ahead and play it. I've never heard anybody play it right, and that includes Monaco, and it always sounds out of tune when I do it, and Derek never played it, so it sounded good. And then it was that one time, when your brain and your tongue actually communicate at the same moment when you need them. And it came out of my mouth as, well, that's because you guys don't play it like I wrote it.
That's hilarious. Let me jump in here right quick. Angel, I'm actually going to kick it down to you, buddy, because I'm sure that Alex's fans and the Metal Summoners are probably getting a little antsy to get involved. So let's kick it to you and the fans.
What's that?
Yeah.
Because what that means, Alex, is because we're on live, Angel monitors the fans, and the fans can comment questions to you so they can be involved in the show.
What a great idea. I'm surprised not everybody does that.
Yeah,
Great.
because you have clothes on.
Because the what?
You have clothes on,
Oh, it's different?
Yeah.
I have sacrificed goats.
Angel, take it away, buddy.
Oh, everybody's got band merchandise on, except for Jason and Jay.
Well, yeah, but I'm with I'm going to always wear Mark and Janet.
Yep, Mark and Janet.
Is that
it's my
that's
button-down
different,
shirt.
Janet.
Yeah.
I got my button-down shirt on, Bobby.
Steve is putting his elegance hat. Bobby his Van Halen shirt.
Of course, it's take off the shirt or
the t-shirt,
break up the band.
And the t-shirt from our sponsors. More on that at the top of the hour.
Absolutely.
And I got on my Hammer Down shirt, of course. And we got a shirtless Alex Kane.
Yeah.
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 He's getting some merch on, baby.
Naked.
Woohoo!
Nobody said anything about full-blown nudity on this show.
Hey, Alex, before we get in, how's Mom?
She's actually, my timing for this is completely inappropriate.
Yeah.
Wait, I got some underwear too, right?
Oh.
I don't think I'm wearing.
Mom's doing fine. Thank you for asking. It's certainly been a challenge for everybody, and I definitely it's caring for her. One, it's about time because I've gotten to live my life pretty much as I've chosen. Like, the only thing I've been responsible about is avoiding responsibility. So it's about time that I did something. And taking care of Mom and the dog is the thing. But thank you for asking. It was very kind.
Look, I love you for it, brother. That's
me too.
Oh yeah. I'm an only child, so like if I don't do it, I got an 81-year-old mom who's on her own, and me fucking doing God knows whatever in LA, living it up, and you know what I mean.
But you're the rock star. That's why we love you. And,
Well, no, I'm not. I'm a service provider, man.
No.
I give people. My job is to allow people to get through the week. You know what I mean? And I push myself that hard so people will see it, and then push, and then be able to express whatever they want to. So I hate the word rock star, actually, because I don't identify. I'm just glad when people didn't fucking stay home and watch Netflix and came down to the show. You know what I mean? So my way of saying thank you is to fucking throw down as hard as like I was going to be dead the next day. You know what I mean? But I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I it's just like a personal thing. I prefer to be a service provider, meaning I've been given a wonderful, wonderful life that I'm really grateful for. And in return, I want everybody to know whatever you've done or heard or come to any show or merch, blah, blah, the usual. I'm just grateful because you didn't fucking have to. So I've done something right, and I want to continue doing that. as long as humanly possible, because it makes me happy when I see that I've given something to somebody. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to bring people together and find reasons not to hate shit, you know?
Very cool.
But first, I'm going to smash this against my face.
All right, Angel, back to you. That was just a jump in.
Okay. Ooh. This question is from Jeff Henderson. He wants to know, ask Alex about the grinder and the sparks on stage and getting the crowd reaction.
That's a life. Is he? So he's typing that?
Yeah, that's what he typed.
I think he's talking about the Life, Sex, and Death grinder. So
I'm on Grinder. Oh wait, wrong Grinder.
No, you're on the right one.
Bobby, put down the margarita.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I'm drinking. Aha.
Well, put that shit down then. Whatever it is, you're like coming out right now.
Bubbly water.
Angel, he's like, what? This isn't like the other interview.
Oh no, it is.
It is, right. That's why you're doing it. You're like, not Bobby again. I had this angle grinder, and then my amps in the Life, Sex, and Death days, like I had metal plating put around, you know where the cab is, right? The rim of it. And then so I put like metal things on it. And at the very end of the show, I would pull, and it wasn't necessarily commonplace yet, you know, because I went to some fetish club and saw a chick do it with a grinder on like her steel cod piece or whatever, and I'm like, I am not doing that to my genitals, but I can definitely do it on stage. So, and I got that, and I can't believe the club, and this is before the fucking Great White thing, you know what I mean? It's before any of that happened. So I would go into clubs with an angle grinder and fucking steel plates along the periphery of my amplifier, and at the end of the show, I'd be going sending sparks off in all the different directions. I mean, in hindsight, I realized it was like not the smartest thing to do. But, you know, let alone like you're all, you know, fucking with an angle grinder on stage with a guitar, you know, it was just, but, you know, nobody ever got hurt, and it always looked cool, you know, and the lights would go off, and then you'd see all these sparks coming off my amp. Like, my amp line was absolutely part of the performance, because I used to like jump on top of it, and then I had, and I don't know if Mr. Henderson saw any of those shows, but I had these 3 boxes made, and then I drilled holes through the bottom of them, and you guys know about guitar cabs, right? How you got wheels coming out of the bottom of them. So I took the casters out, and then I put giant fuck-off eye hooks going through the wood into where the casters used to be. And so what I would do is I would run up to the thing, and you can see it, I think, in the Schools for Fools video, but I would kick the cabinet, which was on a box that was about 2.5 feet tall, and that head was emptied out. So it was just a dummy head. And then I had the guts off to the side in a flight case, so I could go up to all of my amps and kick them, and it would go. We couldn't afford pyro, so I had to figure out some way, you know.
And we got a question from Jean. She wants to know, out of all the bands you've been with, which one has been the most fun?
Oh, wow. No, because they're all shitty people. No.
Anti-product.
Well, that was the most satisfying, because it took the most from me. It was the most satisfying. I was the front man. I wasn't the guitar player. Was I even playing guitar when you seen us? No, right?
No. It was at Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp in 2007 with David Bischoff.
Yeah, with where the ex-wife was on stage, right?
Yes, it was you and Claire.
And Sandy Gennaro, I believe.
Yes, I just talked to Sandy today.
And who else was on? Wasn't there? There was like a fucking shredder guitar player too, wasn't there?
No, but you blew my fucking doors off, because you came out in neoprene and your fucking makeup and everything. Oh, dude, I have a hard on thinking about it now.
Oh, the smile. Well, that was the smile. Well, okay. So to answer the question, I mean, the most satisfying was Anti-Product. on the deepest level, because it was very much an indication of what I want music to sound like, which is a cross between ABBA, Pantera, and Nine Inch Nails, with some Queen thrown in with Cheap Trick parts, obviously, too. That's like my ideal band. And there was 3 beautiful girls in the band, which you guys might remember.
Yeah.
And my teenage rock and roll heart, when I was a actual teenager, I wanted to see that band. So that's why that was. But I wouldn't say that was necessarily the most fun. I have a ton of fun with Enuff's Enuff. I play with this guy Jiro Okabe, who's he's from Japan, and we do pretty well in South America because he's played with a bunch of Ramones, and I've played with all of the living Ramones by now. So we started a band together that's sort of like a punk rock band. We go down to South America, and fuck, man, South America is the place to play. I mean, South America, if you throw down and you commit to fucking blowing that place apart. I mean, the only time, getting back to the rock star thing for a moment, the only time that I've ever actually felt like a rock star was when I was playing in South America with Jiro, because the fans were so passionate about everything. And it was a thing where you did get chased to the hotel and whatever. But the other thing, by the way, if you're ever in that situation, if you just go, I was playing with Marky Ramone. Me and Marky started a band called Marky Ramone's Blitzkrieg. So I was the music director and the guitar player initially. We were going to be an original band, but it was a little too. That was ostensibly why we formed it, but then it just kind of went like, well, nobody cares about new songs. I want to hear Cretin Hop or whatever. Fine,
Alex. That was with Michael Graves, right?
Yes, it was with Michael and Claire.
Yeah.
Yes.
Claire, Michael Graves, and Marky, obviously. And me and to this day, fucking me and Marky are cool. Like, we text each other literally every day. Because when you're as legendary as a man like that is, people don't treat you like a human being anymore. But I'm from Chicago, so my ex-wife was part of the royal family, you know what I mean? But I'm from Chicago, so I'm ignorant, so I don't give a fucking shit what family you have. Either you're, like my music, it's either good music or bad music. People, you're either somebody I love or you're an asshole. It's as simple as that. So, and that's right, you get it. I know you do. And it's based on personal performance. How are these people? How do you interact with other people? Are you respectful? Do you only talk to aristocracy? And Marky ain't that. Marky's totally down to earth. But part of the reason that we got along so well was because I never talked up to him. You know what I mean? I was just like, hey, give me a hand with my suitcase, would you? And he's like, oh, my God, somebody talk to me like who I really am. Yeah, sure, Alex, no problem. But so he would always call me down to his room. Alex, I got to talk to you right now. You got to come to my dressing room, my hotel room. And I'd be like, oh, sure, yeah, you're all right. I'm fine. Get down here. And so I'm thinking fucking something bad happened or the show fell through or whatever. And I'm bolting down because he is the fucking boss after all. And I get there. Hey, Mark, it's Alex, man. Are you there? And 1 second. And then he opens up the door, and he's totally naked, except he's tucked his junk in between his legs.
Right. That's like so Silence of the Lamb.
I know. That's what I was thinking.
Put the puppy in the basket.
It puts the lotion on its skin.
Yeah.
It definitely, and I mean, other stuff happened after that, but I really don't feel at liberty to go into. And it did involve lotion and puppies, but, the guy's a legend, so what are you going to do?
Makes us do that every week, though. It's like, tuck your junk in before we get on air. And
yeah, he does.
Really? Why do you guys do it?
Well, we love Steve.
Damn, Psycho, they sold you out really fast just now.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
I actually see.
But we have to wear yarmulkes. I don't know what it is.
No scrapple for you, Bobby.
Did I answer that question at all?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Ish. You're drunk. You're not one to ask.
No, I'm not. God.
Not you, him.
Keep it rolling, buddy.
Okay, here's my question. This is where my memory kind of fails me a bit. Okay, memory has it in '93. Life, Sex, and Death open up for Poison. How did you guys get that gig?
No, we didn't open up for him. We got kicked off the tour. We were supposed to.
Really?
Yeah. But it wasn't. But it was
Poison tour with CC.
Which actually, it's a little bit funny about that because like there's always when they first started having problems with CC, our lawyer and their lawyer was the same person, right? This guy, Alan Mintz, he's subsequently passed away, but so he was their lawyer and he was our lawyer. And we had literally, Life, Sex, and Death had, literally just come back from signing the record deal, and we're all in Alan's Porsche, which was a 2-seater. So Stan was up front, and the three of us were in the back, right? And Stan's got the fucking luxury seat in the front. But anyway, and so I'm sitting in the back right behind Alan. Phone rings. He had some kind of phone car thing back then, obviously before smartphones and everything. And blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, hey, well, actually, I'm with him right now. Let me ask him, right? Hand to God, this happened. So I'm like, oh, what's he going to ask Stan right now, Stanley? And he kind of like looks in the rearview mirror over his shoulder, whatever it was, and he goes, hey, Alex, I got Poison, and we just came from signing the deal. Just came from signing the Life, Sex, and Death deal. Yes, so CC's leaving Poison. Alex, you want an audition? Now, I got the rest of the fucking band in the car, right? And, and of course, I'm an opportunist enough where I'd be like, well, I'd at least like to go down and jam with them because, I'd be perfect for that job, too. They're kind of punky and whatever and different and way more successful than we were. But, of course, instead, I was like, Alan, we just came from signing a deal. Of course I'm not interested. I almost vomited in my own fucking hands right there. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, and then, anyway, so whatever. And then Ricky had gotten a hold of me.
Why don't you give it to Richie Kotzen?
Well, because I think it was a mistake, but I think what it was, because first of all, I was like, no, I can't even go audition just because I couldn't. I was signed to Life, Sex, and Death, and I don't really particularly regret it. Everybody knows where I am, so if anything happens with CeCe, whatever. And Ricky and I have actually spoken about doing some recording together because he and I have the exact same fucking record collection. The exact same fucking record collection. Stars, Cheap Tricks, Sparks, and we have so much in common that it almost seems like an inevitable thing eventually. But anyway, the reason we got that tour, though, was because we were managed by the same people that managed Poison, HK Management. And that's how we got the Lynch Mob tour, too. So they were with HK at the time. But what happened was, so they got Richie in the band, and then grunge, and then suddenly nobody gives a fuck about Poison anymore, and the attendances were garbage, right? So rather than paying us $1,000 a night for 50 shows, right, they just cut us off the bill because they're like, we're not selling tickets, so let's save ourselves $50,000 right there. So we just got booted. I was, when you dream the dream in your head, it's inevitable that you're going to play Madison Square Garden, right? Right. So I was already visualizing being, covered in sweat and more than likely some blood at the end of every show that we were going to do on the fucking Poison tour, and when I got the phone call, well, we just can't, there's no money for you. And so I called around to everybody in the band and I'm like, guys, there's no money, but we got to fucking do this tour, man. This is a great opportunity. And we'd kind of figured out a way that like we don't need any money and we had our own van and whatever the fuck and all of this stuff. But finally, it just hit the wall and the tour ended up dying. But I mean, playing sheds, oh man, that would have been a wonderful experience to share with my brothers that dared to make a weird-ass band called Life, Sex, and Death with a guy that ostensibly was homeless as a front person playing song. And there wasn't a Foo Fighters yet.
No.
Where there wasn't like a metal power pop amalgam, you know? And it's weird because the guys that were influenced by Life, Sex, and Death, and I'm talking like Marilyn Manson, literally formed at our show in Florida the first time we played there. He was Brian Warner, and then his bass player, I think he's OD'd now, Gidget Kane? Was that the bass player, the original guy?
Oh, right? The guy that Twiggy replaced.
The guy Twiggy replaced, exactly. And when I was... Gidget, yes, exactly. And so they were there, and there was 20 people at that show. There was no fucking buddy there. But Brian Warner and whatever Gidget's real name is, they were both there. And the next day there was a Marilyn Manson. And then I've talked to all the Slipknot guys. So I guess I do have some metal cred. Hey, look at me. Both Corey, one moment, please.
Uh-oh.
So I'm selling Life, Sex, and Death shirts.
Yes.
But that's not the point of the thing.
Fuck that. I want any proc shit.
Well, as a matter of fact, I do have those as well. I've got anti-proc.
Trust me, Bobby, before you even joined on, me and Alex were already talking about how he was going to get a text from me with an order.
Oh, look.
Hey,
wait till my comics. Me and Alex go back a long way on shit.
Oh, I know you do.
We're almost at the gold watch phase, if I remember.
Oh, yeah,
right?
or the cock ring or whatever it is.
I'm telling you, this dude has issues, bro. It's cool. I don't mind. But just like get a rainbow tattoo and just be comfortable with it.
I have one.
He has one.
I have one.
Okay, I feel kind of weird.
I'm going to jump in real quick on that. Before I kick it down to Jason, I just want to take a quick second to always thank some of the endorsements, the sponsors of the show, for allowing us to do what we do. Next week, guys, for the anniversary episode, we got some new people we're going to announce, so we're very excited to do that. But we always want to take a second to thank Saren Cadaver from Twisted Vines Horror Decor out of Rhode Island. Thank you so much, darling. We love you to death. We always want to thank TMS alumni Mark and Janet from Rock and Horror Apparel. They clothe members of the Metal Summit, and we really appreciate them doing the episode with us, as well as, taking care of us and all that. They are also running a discount spring clearance sale right now on rockandhorror.com. So check that out, guys, if you want to. And then we also always, just really appreciate anybody that, reaches out. And of course, our good friend, as always, being shown off by the one and only Psycho Steve, the real Psycho Steve, that is Bradley Entertainment. Brad, we love you. Angie, Dawn, we thank you guys so much for being involved with us. But guys, girls, cats, kittens, reach out to any one of us. We've got different levels of membership, and we're happy to talk to you about what you want to do with us, so we can build you while we build ourselves. So we really appreciate you guys so much. Jason, you've been oh so very patient, my good sir. We got let's up the gorgeous question a little bit and bring you in.
I've been listening, and very entertaining.
What's up?
So very awesome stories.
So little baby.
Time.
I have that same shirt, by the way.
Nice.
I literally do. I was wearing it last night, sort of. God.
So, can you share with us your craziest experience out on the road?
I could, but I'd be in jail.
Second craziest.
All right.
God, I mean, it's never ending. It's never ending. I mean, I got arrested a couple of times with Life, Sex, and Death for mouthing off to a cop. That wasn't pleasant. Playing in Japan with Anti-Product. I mean, it's endless. You know what I mean? That's the thing about being on tour is, I mean, where do you stack like Marky Ramone tucking his junk in between his legs and answering the door in that hierarchy? But So there's this really great band that if people haven't been aware of it, like if you're a Life, Sex, and Death fan, particularly that, but there's a real great band from England called the Wild Hearts. Have you guys heard?
Ginger!
So, well, Ginger and I, and this is kind of how the story started. He moved to L.A. because the Wild Hearts broke up, and then he was another guy who was a big Life, Sex, and Death fan. So when he came out to L.A., he found me through a mutual friend, and we ended up we started a band together called Clam Abuse, and then he flew me over to the UK, and we made that record, and then I put the UK version of the band together, and his audience was very appreciative of Anti-Product because it wasn't that dissimilar. Again, he's another guy. We had the same record collection. And then so the Wild Hearts went to Japan, and we were roommates. I was roommates with Ginger for over a year. Every single day that I would come home from the studio, there'd be a new hole in the wall. I'm not even kidding you, to the point where I wasn't even, fussed about it anymore. Like I'd come home and I'd see like literally like a big old chunk of the drywall ripped out. And I'm like, tough day, buddy, huh? Not even, wasn't even a thing anymore. But anyway, so they got invited to Japan. And then because their fan base accepted Anti-Product as well, we got on the bill too. So we go to Japan, and we're playing at the Shibayu Axe, which was at the time it was a new venue, state of the art. They had just put in like the perfect flooring made out of spongy rubber for the comfort of the performers, and they had these curtains, and it was like everything beautiful, brand new, Japan, blah 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 blah. So Anti-Product plays there. So we go on before the Wild Hearts, and I had this bit where we had UV lights all around the stage, right? So I had this bit where I would take UV spray paint, and we would have all the lights go off, and then I would spray paint. I'd get naked, and I'd spray paint my whole body in this UV spray paint, right? Which I didn't realize how carcinogenic it was at the time, but that's a whole other story. So with the spray paint, now I realize I'm in Japan, and I want to be like super duper careful, because even though, I'm acting like an idiot, I'm not actually one. I am on TV, I play one. So I go to great lengths, and I very gently let this thing roll out of my hand, and I pretty much actually touched this rubber flooring, right? And, it just kind of rolled off into the distance. We do our show. We went over like gangbusters. It was such a brilliant show. And so we're backstage, and everybody's been very accommodating because it's Japan, and you know what I mean? They want to help you out and make sure that you had a good experience there. Except now, on the dressing room door, I hear, that's pretty weird for Japan, that like some dude is aggroing. Door flies open without even anybody inviting the guy in. We must talk now. Something very bad happened. And I'm like, all right, well, he just went on stage and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, so he leads me out to the stage. And as we're getting nearer and nearer the stage, the new stage, right? I'm noticing there's a lot of fucking UV spray paint all over everything, and the Wild Hearts are still playing. And no, this is after the show. I'm wrong. And I'm like, I let it roll out of my hand. I pretty much just touched the ground and put it down. And he's like, I don't know, it everywhere. And then he walks me onto the stage, and it's all the fuck over the stage. It's up and down these 40-foot curtains they just put in. It's all over the rented back line, right? Jesus. And like I'm doing the math in my head where I'm like, okay, so the stage costs $100,000, and then the curtains definitely cost about 20 each. The amps, let me think. So I'm like doing the math in my head, and they go, they actually give me a figure that I've managed to do $75,000 worth of damage. I don't have $75,000 fucking dollars. I'm a guitar player in a punk rock band, right? So I'm like, well, can we? Let me try to clean it. Now you have to remember, I was on stage. Musicians in Japan are viewed as being descendant from angels. We know better, but it doesn't mean that they're totally wrong. Like whatever we're bringing to the planet, they put value in, right? So anyway, then if I was the CEO of a billion yen company or whatever, how much money it takes to have $1 million, I believe the same thing would have been required. So I get a mop and a bucket. And we fucking blew the doors off this place. I literally sold every single last piece of merch that we brought at that one show. All of it was gone. I thought, oh my God, we're going to go home with money. Look at this.
Bullshit.
So anyway, until about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I was out there still in my stage clothes, wiping the stage down, where like the crew guys were all standing around taking pictures of me, like, hey, a rock star, you know what I mean? So they busted my balls and they held me over the barrel on it, and they go, okay, well, you come back tomorrow and you finish, right? And so I go back to the hotel, and while this is going on, I'm not exaggerating, literally the band is hanging out with the 2,500 people that showed up, being passed over their heads while the guy who financed it, wrote all the fucking tunes, taught them how to play, booked the show, is inside scrubbing the rubber floor that the UV spray paint is now on for hours and hours. So I go, guys, we got to come back tomorrow first thing in the morning, and because I don't have the money to pay for all the damage that somehow this just did. So can we all come back tomorrow and help out? And just as if we show face, maybe they're not going to like throw us under the bus and insurance and this, that, and the other thing. So anyway, we go out there. We actually show up at 10 o'clock, like 6 hours after I left. And, everybody's like, you showed up? I'm like, yeah, of course we showed up. We're going to do this. Where's the mops and the whatever? So we go out there. We're cleaning up a little bit. Now, Cy, the drummer, has put his backpack, literally where I dropped the can, like ground zero, right? To go rub the other parts of the floor. And I'm not, dude, it is all the fucking way up the curtains. Like, as it was rolling, it was just, you know what I mean? Like, if you pop a hole in, like, a beer, it just shoots out everywhere. It's the same way with fucking paint, apparently. So they're amused that we've shown up and whatever and whatever and whatever. Cy puts his bag down and starts scrubbing and stuff, and so we do some scrubbing. After a while, they're like, never mind, it's fine. You've done good. They just wanted to see that we respected what was going on there, and that we didn't just like, well, fuck you, I'm leaving anyway. So we got down on our hands and knees and we scrubbed. And then, so anyway, Cy goes back to his bag, and he lifts it up, and now it's dripping brown liquid, right? Again, exactly where the spray paint exploded. And he reaches in his bag, and he had a can of Coke in there. And there was now a hole in it. That was just like the hole, well, I forgot to mention, there was a hole in the spray paint can, too. So I don't know if there was some kind of crazy fucking energy vortex there or whatever, but it popped the hole in the spray can, and then his soda was in his fucking backpack. It wasn't like it opened up and somebody went in there. So, I mean, that was
risk of sounding stupid, Alex. There just didn't happen to be a nail like pointed up from the stage.
No, it was literally on the freshly built stage with the rubber padding, so the performers would have. So everything was Japanese, state of the art. You know what I mean? And then they held me over a barrel for about 2 months before I finally got the email where they said, yes, insurance has covered everything. And I'm like, oh, my God, fuck, yeah. But, I mean, that's just like one. I mean, there was like the Gods of the Metal when I started a riot. We were opening for Slayer. And I knew we weren't going to go over. So my whole game plan was to like, all right, just start a fucking riot. It's going live on TV. Slayer... System of a Down.
How the hell did you wind up on a Slayer tour?
Well, that's the same question I asked the agent. But it was Gods and Metals. So we were touring with Ozfest. We were actually at the time we were the only independent band that ever got to play the main stage at Ozfest.
Which one was it?
Anti-Product. Anti-Product. Dude,
Really?
Anti-Product was the first band who ever fan funded.
Wait, what year?
Yeah, I know.
What year Ozfest did you play?
2002.
Oh, I probably was there.
No. It was Europe.
Europe.
We were
Right.
based in England, so it was all Europe and the UK and like that. And one of the shows on a day off from the Oz thing, because it was like 3 day, or it was a show, then like 2 or 3 days off, another show, 2 or 3 days off, you know. And Ozzy canceled as much as he showed up. Like when he showed up, it was more rare than when he canceled.
Yeah.
Really. And that was also the tour, I think, where he had the not the Humvee, what do you call it, where he fell out of the go-kart or whatever it was.
Yeah, and hurt his back. He was in England.
His broke his collarbone. Because that was during the Osbournes being taped.
Yeah.
Would that have been 2002?
Right about that, yeah, because the Osbournes was going on while I was in college, and they talked about that go-kart accident on the show, and I was graduated by 2004, so it was it's right in that time frame.
I think, because I do know that there was a series of cancellations, and but so anyway, so we had the Gods of Metal, and I knew that we weren't, you know what I mean, like I got 3 women dressed in latex, and that's not how you play your metal in Italy, you know what I mean? Nobody was looking for that. And then I had all that makeup that I used to wear on, right?
Which I loved.
And, I did too, and it was good for branding. So, like, whenever you saw that, you immediately thought of the band.
Of course.
But I went into it, and before we even hit our first chord, they're throwing shit on stage. So I knew literally before I even played a note, there was shit raining down on us. And I found out later that was tradition at Gods of Metal, where whoever the first band is, you just...
Alex, I got to ask, what was the craziest fucking thing that you got hit with?
Well, let's see. Somebody threw a whole watermelon up. But the thing is, like, when you're in the zone, okay, we've all seen that dude he's crowd surfing. He's the singer, and then from the back of the room, somebody whips a beer at him, and he goes like that, and he catches it. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
That's what it's like.
But I heard about Dee Snider getting hit with shit on stage. Really, shit. Jada told me, he goes, look, you don't know when somebody has to take a turd out of their ass and throw it at you on stage. He goes, ugh.
That's commitment for sure. I do remember this. There was one thing, and it was like a lot of clumps of grass and stuff, and there's no velocity by the time. So I was literally just grabbing shit and throwing it back at them, and I would taunt them by saying, oh, that was the other thing. They had just lost the soccer championship to some other team. And so they were in a pissed off fucking mood. And Tommy Lee had done it like a couple of years before, and he got booed off stage, and he went backstage and actually started crying. That was with Methods of Mayhem. And then I think the year or two before we did, Blink-182 got the same thing, and they left after 2 or 3 songs. Anti-Product, we stayed the whole fucking course and just used it as like more pyro. But so like I would grab it and then I'd throw it back at them, and I'd go, "No wonder you lost the soccer. Your aim sucks." And you know, I would do everything possible. Yeah, I know, right? Anything to rile them up. And there was actually like an interesting sort of metaphysical thing about the moment too. But anyway, so I'm trying to rile them up, and I'm like, and I used to do this bit where, was I doing this with the microphone when you saw me?
Oh yeah, Full Fantasy Camp.
Yeah, so that's because I couldn't afford pyro. And actually, that is another funny story. Papa Roach saw us play Anti-Product, and I was just doing it for like shock effect, because you hear boom going through the PA, so that gets everybody's attention, and then you start seeing the blood run down my face, right? And then it's kind of like, okay, I'll pay attention now. So that was all part of the thing. So I'm doing that, and like my face is just pouring blood, and I'm literally saying to the crowd, you call that violence? This is violence, you pussies! And I'd smash myself in the face with the microphone, right? And so I'm like, because what I just wanted to incite a riot because it was going out live on TV. So I wanted to be the thing everybody talked about the next day, right? And which actually did happen, and we had 500 albums, 500 units in Italy. The next day they all sold. And I opened up another touring market, and then I was able to go back to Italy and draw up, 300 to 500 people on our own after going back a couple of times, So, shock does work, So you can use it not only as like a catharsis for yourself, because it certainly was for me. When you do that, you can't do it half-assed. You have to fully commit to it or it hurts really bad. So you got to get that adrenaline and all of that shit going. And when you smash yourself in the face with a blunt metal object, you got to fucking mean it. Like you're angry at that thing and you're trying to knock it unconscious. Otherwise, you just sit there and you're in pain and crying with a microphone sticking out of your forehead. But and I got the whole show. And then what I did was we got all the footage from the show. Me and my buddy in England, Jason. We turned it into a DVD, and then we sold that. It's called The Malay in Milan. So it was like our Gigi Allen moment. The thing that really pissed me off, though, is I had 3 girls that were my sister. Well, one was my wife, but the other 2 were like my sisters. And they started throwing shit at them. And I'm like, no, what are you fucking doing? That's just shitty being a piece of shit right now. Throw it at me. And I literally said, don't throw it at the girls. Throw it at me. I'm the one you hate. Because I didn't want them getting all angry. So anyway, I go, so this goes on and this goes on. And I keep whipping them up more into a frenzy. And I got them right at that point. And I go up to the front of the stage, Italy, Catholic country, right? And I'll do the thing just so you get the sense of it. So, blah, 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 rock, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then I go up to the front of the stage and I do the thing. Right? Everything stopped. Dead cold. Everything stopped coming on stage, right? And so I got like, I know why they're not throwing stuff. As soon as I put my arms down, well, let's see. So I put my arms down and it all just started raining again. But so then, like, I got them whooped up a little bit more. And then I don't know how I managed to do this, but it was a festival stage. And I jumped off the stage. And now I'm literally at eyesight behind the barrier, right? I mean, literally, like, all that's separating is, like, that barrier, right? Yeah. And so I jumped down, and I'm not going to fight 15,000 people, obviously, right? And so I jump down, and I see the ones immediately in front of me, like I see the crowd surge back, like, oh, no, what's he going to do? And then they realized, wait a minute, there's 15,000 of us. Let's get him. And then they all surge back at me, and you see it all on the video as well. Now, by this point, the security guys have come up, and they're like, "Come on, you shouldn't do that." Now, I will fucking say this totally honestly. I completely pretended like, don't hold me back. I was that guy. I'm like, come on, let me at him. Get me the fuck out of here. It was literally
dude, Alex, that's crazy, dude. It actually kind of reminds me of this wrestler I used to watch, like
that's where I got the idea from.
The Sandman with the beer can.
Yeah.
Well, because I used to watch wrestling, Vern Gagne, and then when I was a little tiny kid, and I found out about the cutting yourself with the razor blade for the blood, and that's where I learned, people like to see blood, and then like years later, you know what I mean, when it was found out that I had an IQ of 43, 38, what is it? Years later, from Anchorman, what was his IQ, 38?
I think so.
Brick, right?
I don't remember.
So I resorted to that because I learned that from wrestlers, and I knew it was effective because they'd already integrated that into their showbiz. So Gene Simmons spat fake blood. I wanted to just drip real blood. And getting back to the Papa Roach thing, Anti-Product had all of its gear stolen, meaning they took the van with everything in it. And we had a show in London the next day. Now, we did the show. Papa Roach happened to be in town. It was particularly a violent show for me because I had a lot of demons I needed to get out of my system from having had all the show gear, everything, picks, merch, amps, everything, strings, guitars, you name it, it was gone like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was brutal. It was tough. But, I mean, here's the thing about England. They'll build you up to drag you down, but they will never let you hit the ground. They will never let you hit the ground. And everybody, the Wild Hearts gave us gear. Everybody. The companies, Ampline, like Marshall, Laney, and Peavy called me and said, hey, I hear you got your stuff stolen. You're in the middle of the tour if you need some help. And we went and literally picked up 3 backlines from different companies because we had nothing.
Cool.
It was, they will, if you're being a dick, they will cut you down to size. If you're not being respectful, you will hear about it. They have no problems calling you a cunt or you know what I mean? They will set you straight if you're being a jagoff. I love that. I'm from Chicago, so we do the same, right? And then they will build you up and say your band is amazing, so when your next album comes, they can kind of like poke you with things and take pieces of you. But when the shit hits the fan, everybody draws together in the heavy music community and supports each other. And I've seen it happen a million times, and I was the beneficiary. I couldn't have started fan funding anywhere except in the UK. Because when that got stolen, the first thing was, this is how we buy the van. And we did a fan funding to get a van, so I didn't have to spend £150 every time we went on tour because we were getting paid $250. I can't give the band any money if I don't have any money, right? So anyway, that, and then the thing got stolen and stuff. But that actually does remind me of another. I mean, that's when you say crazy story. This bit, right, stolen from the wrestler, as you so aptly noted. We were playing. It was our first headline show, and Kerrang was there. And actually, then there was when I wore the meat suit in 2002 in Kerrang for the Halloween issue. That was another thing again.
Like Lady Gaga.
No, Lady Gaga like me.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's what they fucking do. They go into the underground and they see cool ideas that didn't resonate with the mainstream, and they go, well, that made me grossed out. Let's do it for real, Lady Gaga. And I don't care. I love being stolen from. It's like crunch all you want, you know, when I saw that. And here's the thing also, the hard rock and metal community, you know, that was in the thick of it in the early 2000s, they know for a fact rock and roll was there before pop. Now, I love Lady Gaga, and I think she's like fucked up. Like, stable, balanced people don't make good art. They don't have to, right?
Great comment. That is awesome.
It's all of us on the fringes that are looking for connection. I'm writing songs so I know I'm not alone, right? So when somebody comes up to me and goes, hey, that song that you wrote, that really meant a lot to me, it means twice as much to me because I'm like, holy fuck, somebody else gets it, you know? Yeah. And I'm definitely bordering on whatever is wrong with me. So we're doing the show.
Too. In her defense, she is a metalhead.
Oh, she's, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's fucking really good too. I mean, she's really good at what she does. And it was only she had to adopt those personas because who she really is wasn't enough on top of it, which is kind of what Anti-Project was about, where it's like,
yeah,
we are showing you how you are being manipulated by other musicians and magazines. So when I wore the meat suit in 2002, and again, like the metal community for fucking sure knows that we were there before they were. No disrespect to Gaga, but they know because they saw it. Slipknot was on the cover, and it was the largest selling issue of Kerrang ever, by the way. Not because of me, because of Slipknot, but I mean, I didn't hurt, you know. And my poor ex-wife, she sewed the thing up, and I'm vegan. I've been vegan now. I wasn't then, obviously. But I still, I was like, oh my God, this poor living thing, and now I'm wearing it, and that's not really going to make me feel good because I love animals. Fuck people. Fuck them. Seriously. COVID, do your magic. Animals, we missed every lesson we could have learned from them. In our arrogance and our hubris and our belief that we are so important that we were too special to bother learning what we could from animals, So anyway, that's my thing on animals. But Kerrang is down to review it. I know I got to fucking blow the roof off the place because it is Kerrang, and Kerrang is, you guys know Kerrang, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's an English magazine for anybody that doesn't know. It's an English magazine, but London is like New York is to the United States. London is to Europe. So if you get a foothold with the press in London, it can sort of send the tentacles out into the rest of the world where you want to make fans. So I knew I had to make an impression. So I started the bit, and I'm bleeding, and I'm doing it really hard. And something inside me says, say this, Alex. And I go, smash, smash. I'm going to keep doing this until one of you comes up here and stops me. Smash. Smash. Fuck. Smash. Smash. So finally I had done it. So now you gotta put a cherry on top of the bit. You gotta end the fucking routine. You know what I mean? It can't just be like, and then he kept hitting himself in the face with a microphone until he died. It would have been a legendary gig, but it was pretty legendary without the death part. And then there was the time that I stage dived and knocked myself unconscious in the second song. That was in England too. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff, but I mean, with this bit, so finally I broke the microphone, so there was no more kapadish when I hit myself in the head with it, and so I was able to throw it on the ground. Now I just look like fucking tomato soup at this point. The tomato soup in the shape of my face. And Mo Rat came down to review it. Now, Mo Rat loved the band live, but hated the band on record. But he gave us 5 out of 5 Ks because I earned it. And the whole band did, but I was the one that was, bleeding profusely. Throw the microphone down now that it's broken. So, like, it's justifiable that the bit's over. You know what I mean? Because there's no more, like, sound. So it kind of, like, now we're in the denouement part of the thing. And so I don't have the microphone anymore. The band's not playing. And off the microphone into the room, and there was like not the Underworld down the street. Anyway, I don't remember now. Microphone down, off microphone. I go, you're all a bunch of fucking cowards. Right? And I was like, oh, okay, I got the end of my bit. That's really, really good. And I got 5 stars, so everybody was happy. 5 Ks, rather. But I mean, the crazy shit, man, it's endless. I mean, we were doing a benefit, and we were playing at this place called LA2. Again, this is Anti-Product. When you're the front man, you kind of like, you go a little bit further because you get all carried away with yourself and everything. So it was the second song. In those days, you weren't stage diving by the second song. You waited till the end of the set. So to me, it made perfect sense. Like, all right, cool, we're going to do the first song. And because, again, in Life, Sex, and Death, I trashed my guitar after the first song, not at the end of the show. I had a shitty beater that I came out and did We're Here Now with. So I started the set by destroying my guitar, and then we started playing the rest of the set. So I continued with that ethos. So the first song was Hey, Let's Get It On, I'm pretty sure, because that's what we opened up with. No, Psychedelic Girl, I don't remember. That's a detail. It doesn't matter. But anyway.
I think it might have been Psychedelic Girlfriend.
Was the first song?
I think so.
I really don't remember, but I know that. So anyway, so we finished the song, and I'm going to be super dramatic now. And I just bolt into the audience, but in between songs, I didn't realize they were going to turn the lights off. You wanted crazy, bro. You're the one that asked. Don't shake your head, motherfucker. And so, but I'm already in mid-jump. You know what I mean? And not only that, I had inadvertently chosen a group of Japanese fans that came over to see the gig, right? And like, it's like you don't really do much stage diving in Japan. You know what I mean? I think it's caught on now, but certainly not, you know, when you like came over from Japan and this crazy white dude suddenly throws himself at you with a face that looks like a cross between Gene Simmons and Kermit the Frog, you know, yelling at you. So I do the thing. And again, I'm in mid-flight, and I'm like, I'm just going to hit my head, and this is, who knows what's going to happen. And it didn't hurt, but I knew something bad had happened, but I didn't know what. So, and I'm laying on the ground, and there's actually, like, if you look at the video of bungee jumping people die, which is on YouTube. And I'm the guy who wrote that song, ironically enough, and that I'm very, very proud of that song. I'll say that as well. But of all fucking ironies, and so there's footage of the actual thing when I did the dive. Like somebody filmed me coming off the stage, and then you see the top half of my torso disappearing into the crowd, and then my two little legs with my little shoes are sticking up, and I go straight the fuck down. Now, again, I didn't catch any of that because I was not only at work but unconscious, which is not much different from my world. But anyway, and I'm laying on the ground, and I definitely, like, I sort of came to, but I'm like, what, am I in bed now? What's going on? And I heard the house lights are on. I'm aware that it's not dark anymore. As I jump off the PA, of course I land weird. I bite my tongue. Now I'm bleeding out of my mouth on top of it too. But you know, fucking, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't. Oh, and that's the first thing I did when I came back on stage. I did that bit until I broke the microphone again. Mm-hmm. And then once I broke the mic, because that was just me dealing with what had happened. Where I don't know. I really have problems.
That's all right. Alex, let me jump in for just a second, man, because it says it gets towards like the top of the hour. I'm just going to let the fans know real quick. We appreciate you guys sticking with us. This has been so awesome. I'm going to hit you guys real quick. It is last call for alcohol, guys. Any final comments, questions that you guys want to hit Alex with, get them into the comments for Angel. We're going to spin a couple more real quick before we put a little bow on it, because this has been nothing short of just absolutely stellar.
Promise I didn't just suck all the air out of the room. That's
no,
all.
Dude, this of another mother.
Oh, dude, this is fucking gold. You yes. I can tell you right now, and I don't think I'll get any argument from the guys. You're gonna have a second episode. Like,
yes.
About the shows where I didn't knock myself out and actually finish the gig.
Hell yeah. But while the fans are putting those in, there's a quick question that I want to ask you, that because you had mentioned to me leading up to the episode that you liked the picture that I used for your poster, which you said was a picture that was taken of you during a solo. You're holding your guitar cord kind of above your head.
Oh, yeah, that's one.
So there were two pictures I wanted you to talk on right quick, and one is that one because you said that was a cool story with that picture. But there's also another picture on your Facebook that I loved, which is a close-up of your guitar just covered in blood. And
yeah.
I don't know if you remember what led to that, but I'd love for you to talk on it.
All right, the one with are you guys familiar, for example, with the jams that happened in LA pre-COVID? So like Ultimate Jam Night and
yeah, I played them.
Yeah.
Okay, right, and when I wasn't as busy in like 2014, I guess I first became involved with them as I am now, and subsequent to that, like once I got in Little Caesar, which I did for about 2 years, I just kept getting more and more work, and I also have to say that doing those jams, and this may be something that rings true to your listeners or you guys, whatever. But just getting out there and doing your shit and letting people see it, even in the context of a jam, is a good idea. Because me and Ace and Johnny Martin, Ace Von Johnson, we all got fucking tons of work out of that, where they're like, if they can fucking hang with those guys and not do sweeps every second, no disrespect, Tori, you know I love you. He's the only guy playing sweeps I can stand, actually. But so we got a lot of work out of that, and you know, we had a certain attitude and appearance or whatever that allowed for that. But anyway, so by doing those jams, and I used to do them all the time, and I loved it, both of them. Like they broke into two camps, which was very unfortunate. And somehow I managed to stay good with both people, just because I'm like, hey, that's your problem, that ain't mine. I love you guys, and I love you guys. If you'll have me play, I'll come down and throw down. But anyway, so the blood picture was from when I was doing a nice casual jam. So it was one of those things, and, you know, people get up and they play like Steely Dan, and then if they needed something that was edgy or fucked up, you know, it was always me, Ace Von Johnson, and Johnny Martin. Like, we were the guys who was like, all right, we need some problem people on this stage that, you know, are just as happy falling over as they are playing the song properly. And so I don't know what I did. I don't even remember what song it was. I'd have to look, but I did something, and then I drew blood, and like once I draw blood, I'm just ready to go, you know, because you get your adrenaline, you're like fucking even just thinking about it now, I can feel that rage. So that was that. The blood picture, and I think it was my friend William Greenberg. I don't remember who took the picture, but whoever took it, it was immediately after the show, and I'd have to look at the watermark to find out who it was. But I remember they found me as I was packing my shit down. I want to get a picture of the guitar. Give me a picture of the guitar. I was like, oh, of course, yes, right. I'm the blood guy, and so that's how that came to be. And I think I was already in Caesar at that time, because I believe there's a Spain sticker on my guitar at that point, and that would have been from a Little Caesar tour. A great band, great guys. I love them so much. It's all I do is play music, so I gotta be in 6 bands because nobody tours for a year anymore, and they work 3 weeks out of the year because they all have, you know, real lives, unlike I do. But I love them, I respect them, and I learned so much from being in that band. Anyway, that's them. The thing with the chord, if I had my fucking rig set up right now, but I just did a show in LA, so I brought everything there and I haven't unpacked it yet. But the chord thing, right?
Yeah.
Can I figure it now? Because I need my wah and a delay and a phaser. But if you set up, the chord becomes microphonic, right? So, you know, like if you tap the end of a chord and you hear burp, 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 okay. So it's basically...
I've seen Tom Morello likes to tap his unplugged chord and do things during Rage Against the Machine shows. I've seen him do that.
Tap my chord.
That's how you broke your finger. Don't lie, motherfucker.
We'll talk to that in a little bit.
Off camera, will you? Send me some pictures. That'd be cool. And somebody, I don't remember who it was. It may have been Tori, actually, that said that he'd seen Tom Morello demo. I'd not seen it. But and I believe my application's a little bit different. But like if you unplug the cord and then you put a delay on it, and you have to kind of get your gain stages right for it to work, because it'll turn microphonic, and then as you do the sweep with the wah-wah pedal and you have a delay in time with whatever's going on behind you, that was just Mom going up. Everybody loves you, Mom. Thank you, she says. But when I say anything else, she doesn't hear me. It's so weird. Women. But anyway, so you tap the end of the chord, and if you got your wah, and then you have a delay setting in time, right, the wah will sweep through the frequencies as you're sort of initiating it here on the chord, and you get So it's like a theremin almost, right? Or a whale call or whatever the fuck. And then like a phaser will modulate it even more. Another real fun thing to do, and this is pot. Pot and mistakes, I find out, is how I come up with my best ideas, and I no longer call them mistakes, but how I play. But if you take your guitar cord, and again, it helps to have like a phaser or a delay or something on it to just kind of embellish what you're getting, but you unplug your cord and you hold it in front of your speaker, and then you kind of like whip it almost. It'll go, whew, 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 and then you can actually play your chord in the speaker. Like, I've not actually done that live because I remember now that I can do it. So that's a different way of generating a signal, a frequency, and then you modulate it with effects and, delays or whatever, so it does shit on its own. And so that's what that is. So, but generally speaking, if I'm doing that one, I have my gain pedal on. I've got, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I'll tell you what, when it doesn't work, I just look like a fucking asshole. And Chip looks at me like, what? Why don't you just plug in your guitar now and play notes? I'm like, well, that's what you got Tori for. I'm here to break shit and scare children. Which I actually
peanut butter. Woo!
I love you so much because you're twisted, but I know I'm never going camping with you.
Oh yeah. Angel, let me kick it down to you to close this out. Is there anything final from the fans or a question from yourself?
One of the fans just wants to know any plans to tour in the Northeast at any time this year.
That's like Portland, Seattle. No, Northeast is like Buffalo and shit, right?
No, it's New England, like Massachusetts, Vermont.
Well, we're supposed to. I don't know what to believe or who to believe anymore, but supposedly, and also the other thing is I do want to say one thing, which is Sam Bam Colton. Yep. Unbelievable fucking young guitar player. That guy is going to be bigger than, I don't know who you had on the show, but that guy, I will postulate, is going to be bigger than anybody you've had on the show. Sam Bam's the real fucking deal, and we've got that other band together, Having the Have-Nots, with me, him, and Johnny Martin, where we do holiday-themed songs, and I don't know if you saw the Cupid one for Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah.
That's an actual real-life pig's heart that I'm holding at the end.
Nice.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I'm like vegan tree hugger yoga guy, and like when I was holding his little heart in my hand, I kind of got a sense of him, and I did feel pretty bad, and I'm still a little bit tortured by it now because I love animals so much. But I mean, he was dead already, I don't know. I don't know how to just.
You had a heart on?
Well, I had his heart on in my hands. Yeah, I had a pig heart on. Why?
Oh, hey.
Absolutely, because
so
Alex,
I've done that, but I'm avoiding the question, and I'm not. It's just because I can't think in a straight line. The thing is, so Sam Bam plays for Faster Pussycat. I love Faster Pussycat, and I love Sam Bam. Yeah. And so Enuff is supposed to tour, and I was just talking with Chip about this last night. I have a feeling it's going to go forward. It's been canceled 3 times. And I have so much respect for Sam Bam that I want to fucking blow him off stage every night. That's how much I love him, because I know what he's going to do is he's going to go, oh, yeah, motherfucker, and he's going to come on and he's going to fucking try to dust me, and he can easily. Sam Bam can take me. So I got to raise my game, and that makes him raise his game. And you know who benefits? The people that didn't stay home and watch Netflix.
Very cool.
Yes.
If you really respect, in my world, if I really respect a musician, and if they're opening for me, if I love them as a person and I admire who they are as a player, and I had this conversation with AC Slade actually, because you've had him on.
Not yet. I'm going to reach out to him because I think he'd be great.
He's great. He's a great guy. And we are very, very similar. We are very, very similar. I played in the Murder Dolls for a couple of shows. And like, I mean, it was crazy because, I mean, I did fit right in. Eric's lost his father in the middle of a tour, and he had to come to bury him. And so that's when Joey actually admitted, he's like, dude, I'm a huge Live Sex and Death fan. Hey, will you play bass for us? While Eric's gone. So of course I did. And I got to be friends with all of those guys. Ben eventually joined Anti-Product after the Murder Dolls. He came up with us. And, you know, I miss him so much too, but
late Ben Graves, man.
Yeah. He was, and you know, the thing was like Ben was very, you know, he kept everyone at a distance. You know, he didn't really let people in. But I'm a nerd. I'm a fucking total nerd. I'm as nerdy and uncool as anybody has ever.
You're cool.
Well, maybe being that is what cool actually is, as opposed to like standoffish and shitty or whatever. Like, and you know, but Ben was actually very vulnerable and incredibly sensitive. You wouldn't believe what a sensitive soul that guy was, and very artistic. And because I'm a nerd, he allowed his inner nerd to come out. And so we would always, like when he was living with me in England, me and my wife, you know, we would, and chicks, I mean, every night this fucking dude would have the most hot chick in the world ever that he was banging in my living room loudly. And it was a different one, always. But like when it was me and him.
Alex, your mom wasn't there though, right?
No, it wasn't my mom.
No, but I mean, no, I didn't say it was banging your mom. I'm just saying.
Look, I want to make one thing clear. Ben never banged my mom, okay? Right now, he's laughing. And I will, I don't want to eat up all your time here, but I will say one other beautiful thing about Ben, if I may, because that's what
Absolutely.
Through, and I will try to not be as verbose as I normally am. So I was on tour with Enough's Enough. I was their tour manager. I wasn't in the band. I was in the support band at the time. It's before they asked me back. So I got everybody to bed. I sent out the text, okay, we're leaving at 10 o'clock, blah, 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 blah. Ben had already passed away. And yes, we intend to play on the East Coast, Northeast, at the my favorite bar, actually, a club in America right now. It's called the Vault, and it's in I want to say New Bedford. I'm not exactly sure, but thinking is not my strong suit. The people are wonderful. The fans are amazing. It's like going home. So yes, we definitely have some gigs booked, and I can only and pray that we do them. But anyway, so Enough's Enough on tour, that part of the country. Ben has passed away. Everybody, I've done my work, you know, work first. I'll do whatever fucking drugs, I'll do any goddamn thing a motherfucker want. But I will not betray the audience by showing up stoned and drunk on stage. I will get on stage and I will fucking pummel them with every ounce of energy I have. Afterwards, it's my time, I've done my job. So anyway, now it's my time, I've done my job. And then I'm like, all right, well, let me see where Ben's funeral is. I mean, I'm on the East Coast. I mean, I'd be a dick not to. I booked the hotel 2 months before he died.
Oh, wow.
Google it. I'm literally 17 minutes from where his funeral is.
Oh,
Literally 17 minutes. I'm like, next text I sent to everybody, guys, you're on your own tomorrow. You know how to set up. I'll be there by showtime, but I'm gonna go be with Ben right now. And I got there, and there was a bunch of weird things that happened that weren't natural, that were something beyond that. And anyway, so and part of that is the point. I was trying to get to the address. I missed the wake. I was late for the wake, but I still had the address in my phone of where he was being buried. Now, what are you doing, Ma? Okay, you go feed the rabbits out.
Did we see Mom? Bring Mom on for a minute.
You want to be part of the interview real quick?
I want to see Mom. Mom rocks.
She says she remembers everybody. I'm not sure what that.
Oh, we love Mom.
She hasn't like done her hair or anything, so I think that might be why she's a little concerned. But anyway, so I missed the wake, and it was closed, and there was nobody there. And so then I go running back to my phone, and I'm like, I didn't come all this way, and I'm not going to miss your fucking funeral, Ben. That's not what's happening here. Now, I'm hitting the button. It's not coming on. But it was charging. I got to rent a car. It was charging the whole way. You know what I mean? I'm like, what the fuck? Oh God, no! I need the I'm literally pushing all the buttons. It doesn't go on. I'm not making this up. I will fall over and die if I'm exaggerating or making any of this up. And I go, and this happens for a while, and I go, fucking Ben, stop it! The phone came on.
That's amazing.
The phone came on. And then when I got to the funeral, you know, because now I had the information and everything, and I made it, and I walked up, and it was literally just as they were lowering him into the ground. And I'd never met his mom before, and she's the most gracious, strong, beautiful, wonderful person. I mean, I love his mom so much. And his brother, I became really close with the family. We're at the funeral. There was a lull in the conversation. I got his brother here, his fiance here, his mom here, and Eric, his best friend, right, Eric Griffin from the Murder Dolls. And we're all standing there, and there's a lull in the conversation. And again, one of those things that comes right out of my mouth. We have to do a memorial concert.
Oh, yeah.
It came out of my mouth. His mom goes, like before I even finished the sentence, that's a great idea. So now I'm committed.
Oh, dude, you, AC, Eric, Wednesday. I saw the footage of it.
Dude, I put that I have never worked. I love to work until I fall over. I have never worked harder on anything in my life. We had, I think it was 50 musicians and about 4 hours worth of music. And I had to schedule it and bring everybody in and make sure that everything, and it was all for Ben. And we had 1,200 people in that venue that was meant for 850. And everybody there was to pay tribute to Ben. And Roy Mayorga played. Johnny Kelly, his best buddy, played. Eric played. AC played. AC, actually, when you have him on, ask him about how he almost took my head off with his guitar at that show.
I will.
Me and fucking AC Slade on the same stage together needs choreography, because left to our own devices, somebody's going to die. But anyway, so and during the course of the show, which was a beautiful, beautiful event for the most part, his mom, who was in her 70s somewhere, was front and center for the whole gig, radiating just love and energy. And she was surrounded by a bunch of, 23 to 27-year-old girls, all of whom were completely in love with Ben. But she stood out as the queen. It was just,
Nice.
It was magic.
That's awesome. So, Alex, I think we're having a little,
bummer. It wasn't my intention. I'm sorry.
I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but I know we're still recording and everything was still going. So, real quick, to close out the show, Angel, will you read Walter's question?
Yep, I got it right
because
here.
I think he's the first-time watcher, and it looked kind of interesting. So let's close out with Walter's question, and we'll call it an evening.
Yep, I got it right here. It's for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay. He wants to know, did you have a say about what songs would be omitted from the vinyl version of The Silent Majority that was released in Germany in 1993? There were a few songs missing on it.
Yes, there was 3 songs missing, and that is a great question, and it's also the first time I've ever been asked that. We had absolutely no say-so whatsoever.
Oh, wow.
We didn't know until we got a vinyl pressing, because CDs had taken over by then. So we didn't know until we actually got the vinyl pressing that they'd left 3 of the songs off. It was Wet Your Lips. I don't remember what the other 2 were, but and it definitely, I'm like, are you serious? I mean, what's wrong with that? But they just couldn't get it all on vinyl is what it was. But we were not consulted. We just got the thing. And somewhere here, I believe I have a copy of the vinyl, and that was also the only place that you could see the girl's nipples, right? Because on the CD, because our album came out right after Body Count, Pop Killer.
Yeah.
So when that shit went tits up, the label was like, no, we're not showing the nipples, because they didn't need any more heat. So we definitely got censored because of that, and that's why only the vinyl. What?
Those pussies.
Well, but I mean, they had lawsuits, and also, what if it did re-inflame shit, and then that would push us even further out of the loop. If we'd released it with her breast showing. Nope, we're not stocking this. Body count, people, problems again. No, thank you. Then suddenly we got to go and reprint the whole fucking run. You know what I mean? But it was only in Europe that actually her tits were exposed and the nipples and the ad. That was my idea. And the ad was wanted model with pierced nipples, not afraid of having a boar hair set on fire and run through them. I didn't come up with a copy, but that's what we wanted. We wanted the thing with the fire.
Why do I keep thinking National Lampoon's fake titty bit nipple?
Because I think you come from a very special psychological place.
Absolutely, 100%. Well,
I got it, right?
Well, Alex, man, this was fucking awesome. We had a great time, man. Honestly, you're definitely going to have a second episode just on general principle, because we need to talk about, the Ben Graves show. We didn't even get into Shark Island, and I really want to talk about that album.
Richard Black. And I produced it, I co-wrote most of it, and I play guitar on all of it, and I'm as proud of that as anything you guys have heard of me. Whoever gets a chance to check out Bloodline, it's out now on Deco. We released it ourselves independently, and we sold out of that, and we got a record deal as a result. And it's the first big thing that I've produced. I sweat on that and bled for it, but you guys know I do that obviously with everything I do. Reading a book, I'm covered in blood again. How did that happen?
Hey, Alex, so before you leave, I gotta say, I talked to David Fishoff this week. And we talked about you. 2007, when I did my first camp, when you played with any product, and I'm sitting there, and when you and Claire walked out, I went, "Who the fuck is this?" But then you blew my doors off, and I posted on the Metal Summit. You guys did. We had Brian Wilson on the camp. And you did Good Vibration. And so I wanted
to talk about crazy. Fucking how fucked up am I?
Good Vibration. And I sat there and I kept going, but your version is so fucking badass.
I talked to Brian Wilson at that show, and I actually got him. When Brian Wilson was sitting 3 feet away from me, I turned into total tongue-tied nerd, real Alex when he was 14. You know what I mean? He was, dude, he was fucking there, and it's Brian Wilson, and I'm like, he's a genius. And he totally proves the point. Stable, balanced people don't make good music. and I go, and I said it 3 times, and it was so quiet. And I go, Brian, I couldn't even look at him. Brian, and I'm like, all right, you got to talk up. It's Brian Wilson. Who knows what the fuck's wrong with him? Brian, and he kind of, and now, but I think he's really shy too, because he was like, oh. We're sitting there grunting at each other, and I go, I just want to say thank you. And he goes, and I'm smoking, right? And he goes, you should stop smoking. All of this that you see from me now, none of that was available. It was just fine. But then I did get a copy of it to him. And I do know firsthand for a fact that he loved what we did.
I love what you did. That made 2007 when you did, dude, you blew my fucking doors off. You made my rock and roll fantasy camp.
Well, that was also another example of don't tell anybody what we're doing is impossible here, because Brian Wilson needs 12 people to play Good Vibrations, and there's only 5 of us, and only 3 of us are singing. So you don't need to know what we're doing is literally impossible. You just play your part, you know, and that's how it was able to translate. But after hearing my version, one thing that I really took umbrage with his version, aside from it being one of the greatest songs ever written, not by a Beatle, he on the outro, you know, where they're doing the fade on his version, like versus my version, but they're just doing the fade, and they got the theremin, and it's going out, right, which incidentally is where Zeppelin stole the melody to Immigrant Song from. I can't hit that note. Think about that, the falsetto part that Plant's doing. That's the melody from Good Vibrations. Think about it in your head.
Very interesting.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, because it's been 2007. You and I have been friends, and you and so you.
Well, when you talk to Dave again, let him know I'd be very interested in being a camp counselor.
And I will. And you know, with the rockumentary that just came out, David wants to get involved with us on the Metal Summit. I'd like to bring Sandy Gennaro and everybody in, and bring some of the old guys in, and so we'll get this going.
Absolutely,
I'm totally down. I would love to do that. Hey, you guys. I want to say, first of all, yes, thank you. I very much appreciate it. I didn't know much about this, but and you'll forgive my ignorance, but there's a lot of that going around in my world. But you guys really have it together, and I think you got something pretty special going on here. Like, I like the format. I like that everybody's got their thing. I like that Bobby says a bunch of really uncalled for shit, so he's he's the loose cannon. I like that Angela, like I've got it together, and I'll be doing my thing. Just hang on. You're a great host, and Jason, it seems like you're the designated grown-up or something.
He's the dad.
He's the dad, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's awesome, though. But I mean, and this is what makes the country great, is that none of us are too terribly alike, but we all love the same shit, and that's what makes America great.
Absolutely, man, and we really appreciate you for it, dude. I mean, myself and Bobby are going to be in Nashville in August for Rockin' Squad. So we're going to try and see what we can put together with this, and I know that Steve, Angel, and Jason are messing with their schedules to figure out how that's going to go. Bobby will definitely be there.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
I'll be there.
That'll be very, very cool. But Alex, thank you so much, man. We will definitely have you on in a future episode, so we can talk about Have Me and the Have-Nots. We can talk about Ben Graves. We can talk about Shark Island, and we can talk about Little Caesar. But fans, thank you guys so much. We love you guys to death. You've been fucking great as always. And next guest announcement on Friday, as always. It'll be the 1-year anniversary episode, so we're very excited to bring that to you guys for sure. So stay forward. Stay with us for all the announcements. Hit us up on all the social medias. Hit us up on Facebook, like and follow for when we're live. Hit us up on YouTube for all of the interviews. Hit us up on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, the Metal Summit across the board for it.
Grinder.
We thank you guys so much for all of the hosts, for Bobby Dreyer, for Angel Alamo, for Jason Proswijk, Psycho Steve, I'm Jay, and Alex. Thank you again, sir. Alex Kane, for being with us tonight.
Hit me up for merch.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Hit him up.
I want my any product shirt.
On
Give
Instagram.
your mom a hug.
That stuff. So we thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next week. As always, you've been watching the Metal Summit.